Good evening all, and it's going to be my second panel discussion today. Just 1 hour back, I had a lovely chatting with all these experts, and I really enjoyed it. But now it was private, and this is a public. We are going to talk about culture, scale, and operations in DevOps today, right? This DevOps movement, as most of you are aware of, it started way back in 2008 as a bridge between the development and operations community. And over a period of time, QA also joined in this, so technically it should called as Dev, QA, and Ops, but yeah, we are keeping it as a DevOps. So quality comes in the end. DevOps movement played a very critical role in bringing quality in the beginning itself, right? And over a period of years, when more teams started adopting DevOps, tools become more complex, everything become more complex, and keeping it at scale become a very big challenge. And now this AI and GenAI has also joined into this foray. It made the system more complex and more interesting. So that is what we are going to cover in the next around 1 hour, where we are going to see how this culture going to keep the teams aligned and how it is testing our scalability and how we are going to keep our operations impact. Towards the end, we will also take a couple of questions from the audiences. So we'll start with the first question, right? As team now is, spanning across the regions and over multiple cloud environments and everything, almost every team started doing DevOps in their own way. Some people are on to AWS, some people are on to Azure, some people are on to, GCP. Yeah, it is a great thing for flexibility, right? But at the same time, it has also started inviting the chaos. So the real challenge is how to make this diversity exist, at the same time, how to bring in some kind of control to the chaos. So the first question is, what approaches work best to standardize DevOps practices across distributed teams? Narayanan, maybe you can take it a shot at it first.
Hello. Hello, it's clear?
Yeah.
Hey, my name is Narayanan. Regarding how we are going to look at multiple teams handling their own kind of DevOps pipeline, and then it's been there for a long time, right? Yes. Anything related to development, code, it's an emotion, right? If you go and try to change something that people are doing forever for a long time, and if you say, hey, you have to start doing it differently, there's going to be a friction, right? The first thing is, you want to start putting some kind of a standards in place. So define the standards, stop the leaky bucket. Anything that is coming new, you say you follow the standard. It's very easy, because new people want to look at what's the way to do. There's a standard available, people are going to pick it up. Very easy. Second step is, now look at all the variations that are there and understand why there's a variation. There could be a reason why people are doing it differently, and there is a justification why it is being done that way. Right. Understand how you are going to group it. Let's say 90% of them can be grouped together, then that's a good win actually. 10% is going to be always a variation. That variation should be always controlled, kept in tab, but you have already controlled the leaky bucket. There is no new 10 is not going to become 11 anymore, because you have stopped the leak, and then you are actually standardizing the 90%. Slowly evolve this over the period of time. And this is how you make things to adopt. If they are following different kind of standards, how to make it in a single way, and then everybody starts following it in a much more, adopting in a much more streamlined way. And then once you start showing success of this 90%, that your pipeline is adding value, and you are actually building new features much more faster, people are going to eventually adopt towards it. Rather than pushing or policing towards how to do it, you put guardrails and things in place in a way that it adds value, people will automatically adopt to it. That's how I see it actually.
Right. Thanks. No, that emotion is pretty much a right thing. Vijayanand, maybe you want to take a shot at it?
Yeah, thank you. So when it is a small team, that is not an issue. When the team grows bigger, it becomes a big challenge. The challenge is not at the technology perspective. The only thing is how they collaborate among them, how they discuss and do it, things is.
Right.
So every time when they do it, it should not be something like they do it instantly. It should be documented. So already there should be a clear document on what to do. So when we speak about documentation, it becomes difficult that the innovation is lost. So because there are new things coming, whether the innovation is not there. So you should see that for a standard process, there should always be a documentation which needs to be clearly defined. And at the same time, when innovation comes, let's take it also, and we'll discuss it and make it. So in such a way that that is also not left out. The new innovation is also not living there. And the main thing comes in collaboration, which misses in the group team. So that needs to be addressed here.
True. collaboration plays a very key role over here, right? Thamarai, Kannan, you want to take it?
Hello. Yeah, my name is Kannan. So I think like Narayanan mentioned on a high level, like standardization things, right? So standardization basically, in my view, it's not like hardening the systems. Like instead, the process which you are going to define, it should be robust across multiple teams, right? So for example, a layer one level down, if you see, there are like multifold systems we can build. For example, say, how can we templatize our CI/CD pipelines? How we can create infrastructure as code in scale. So probably when you are onboarding different teams or like creating a golden templates there, like for example, say, if you are going to build a Java application, you are going to build a web application, or like anything which is very common to your team or like common to your organization, you can create as a golden templates, right? So that can be customized and reusable templates. And in my views, it should not be an re-engineering efforts, right? Instead, like you should use the templates as a base for your team. So for example, your new team is getting onboarded for your platform. So think in a perspective that like the first level of approach will be, they are going to use the golden templates, whatever it has been built. On top of it, they can be customizing the approach. That's how I personally feel. End of the day, as I was mentioning in the start, right? So the process which you are defining as a standard process, right? It should not be hardened systems, right? You should follow this, that, like, okay. The first initial steps will be a hardening systems, like you should put a, specific guardrails, and you should put a standard documentation for specific architecture. All those things, it should be in place. And on top of it, each individual team or like a business unit should have the capability of scaling that to their perspective, to their business needs. So that's my view.
Thanks, Thamrika. Now, we all seen this happen, right? Most of the DevOps community, we do things manually first. We learn a lot, and suddenly we start automating it. Initially, it will be great. Then over a period of time, we will end up, creating a lot of micro, nano transformation, automations that runs across the different environments, and suddenly everything becomes the complex system, right? And somewhere unrelatably, one thing will fail, then the entire automation system will go down. And not only it will go down, it will also affect the other system that was actually running pretty much fine. So and now this AI and Gen AI comes into the picture, we can see pretty much, over engineering has become a part of the daily life too. So now question is not about, how to automate, but still how to keep the pipeline steady and leverage this automation. So the question is, how do teams keep automation pipelines reliable as complexity increases? I will go to Lenin this time.
Thank you. I personally believe that many companies would admit that we've not mastered this, because it's a very real problem in the industry. But the companies that's made a lot of advancement are the ones who understood the evolving nature of this whole culture of DevOps. I think to start with, as organizations, we'll have to understand, what does it mean? DevOps, is it a set of tools and scripts, or is it an intelligent ecosystem, right? That can learn, that can predict, that can also improve with every deployment that we do on a daily basis, right? And there are several, even when we look at the introduction of AI, right from copilots, where our engineers are using a lot of that for building code, are our pipelines capable of bringing the unified process and culture into it, or are we treating our DevOps and MLOps as separate functions by itself, right? Because now when we try to embrace these two and look at this as an intelligent ecosystem where it's all interrelated, then a lot of opportunities comes up where you can build self-healing pipelines, where you could actually go into pipeline as code mechanism, where you could actually control every phase of your pipeline, right? And then the more stronger is the organization's change management process, because that's the fundamental. And if you're not clear to the basics, I don't think any of the other automation is going to even help us. I think getting into that is more important, because right now, it is also about, when we think about the pipeline stability, because it's a very critical word, because it's not just about releasing faster, but it's also about how stable and reliable we are. So stability is going to be about how much can we prevent in terms of outages, in terms of disruptions, which also defines the quality of it. So I think it's more about embracing this and looking at this as an ecosystem rather than as a set of tools and scripts separately, is what I feel.
Thanks, Lenin. Vijayanand, maybe you want to take a shot at it?
Yeah, thank you. So actually, when the complexity increases, the challenges is where it will fail, it is not sure. And when it fails, what are the steps needs to be taken, it becomes a challenge. So if you see in Netflix, what they have done in most of the time is, they do it chaosly. So they trunk away to a particular server and remove some of the servers and how the team responds to it, how dare. So in this case, the team gets prepared for it. So they do it, they do a firefight, and at the same time it is under control also. It's not like a complete chaos. So if something goes wrong in real instance, it may take long, but this is done by intention. When they are doing by some intention, they can, if there is something going out of their bound, they can stop it and revamp, because everything is. But what makes this is the team gets very much prepared to that situation. So they build themselves so strong so that they are able to handle, and it becomes not as a very complex challenge, it becomes their day-to-day activity. And at the same time, nowadays with agents, so agents modes are also there, which learns it and automatically tries to rebuild it, or sometimes if the fail happens, what it can be done to improve it, or what it can be done to again rebuild it, it takes care sometimes. That also helps us an additional opportunity when it becomes a complex. Right. So now this particularly N8N is doing a lot of work in building this complexity much easier.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Narayanan.
The question is about reliability of the DevOps pipeline itself, right? It's not just about the pipeline being reliable, because the reliability of the pipeline can directly impact the reliability of the application itself. It's possible a bug in the reliability, your DevOps pipeline can actually deploy something that's not intended for, right? Or imagine that you're in a firefighting situation, then you want to release some hotfix and the pipeline is not working, right? Now, these are things that can go wrong with the pipeline. So initially, when we start DevOps, like you mentioned, we start with DevOps manually. Right. We deploy everything manually, all comfortable, everything good. Then you start automating. But when you start automating, even though the whole pipeline is also code-based, we never think DevOps pipeline as a code. Right. We should start thinking this as a code. We should also version it very clearly. The first thing is versioning it, so that we have a control about what version is running in which environment and why it is all good, right? And you have to validate this DevOps pipeline also in a separate sanity environment. You should not consider the developer's dev environment as your sanity environment. Right. The difference is your pipeline is supposed to actually deliver from their whatever mission, whatever the local Git, and then it goes to their to the different environments. That's where the pipeline supports actually. You're not supposed to play around with your pipeline in those environments, because those environments are critical for the releases. So you should have a separate environment where you should be able to, in isolation, test your pipelines, version it, release it. So first thing is versioning, and then you are actually testing it. Then, now you are talking about the reliability of the pipeline. Coming to the application reliability, in the pipeline you can have measurements like quality gates, right? We talked about quality gates. You mentioned about quality being part of DevOps, developer quality and then operations, right? So quality gates also plays an important role, because that's how you measure whatever you're releasing is all good or not, right? So that's about ensuring the reliability of the application itself. So the pipeline should be reliable by itself. It should also help making sure that the application it's deploying is reliable, and because the issue should not be because of build. So when you look at the RCA and then say, what are different reasons there's a bug in the system, it cannot be like a pipeline, there was an issue because of the pipeline, right? So that's the last thing we want to hear. So version it, isolation, and then test it, and then ensure that you have quality gates in place.
Right. Thanks, Narayan. Now this is one of my favorite questions, right? When DevOps movement started, it is all about shell scripting. Then then Jenkins came. So their tools was very limited. That was the challenge in DevOps community. But now it is totally a reverse situation, right? There are more tools in DevOps world now. And every team have their own favorite tool. Somebody will say, I'm comfortable with Jenkins. Somebody will say, I'm comfortable with GitHub Actions. And somebody will still stick on to a Circle CI, right? And it is like one person's favorite tool over a period of time becomes a team's responsibility, and that is where the problem comes in, right? So what strategies actually help team manage tool sprawls when multiple platform coexist, right? Maybe this one I will start with Parani Raja to take it up first. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll kind of take that Avengers example one, okay, because Jenkins talks about Ascodar, okay,
Right.
and GitHub Action talks about Akadan.
Right.
But what we need is a shield. We don't need to put everyone into an Iron Man suit, right? So how we can approach is like, we can establish some kind of a standard process, okay, defining as an org level. These are all the set of tools for the CI/CD monitoring and then security scans. We can set some kind of standards and allow teams to configure it based on their like projects or products. Okay, so that way we will be in a position to measure the success of each and every team, and if there is any deviation, we will be able to catch it at the org level. Okay, so that's one approach. And second one is we can go with an IDP, like kind of an internal developer platform.
Okay.
Okay, so that will help us to kind of standardize. It will actually abstract the complexity of different cloud providers or different set of tools or different set of pipelines for a easy purpose for the end user. It can be a developer or an ops guy one. Okay, so that it's a kind of a portal can be built, and we can have some kind of a catalog saying that one these are all the different services, and it can help from the starting a code repo how it getting deployed into the production environment. So that's another approach. Next one is ThoughtWorks Tech Radar. Okay, so we can do at the org level, like we can find out what are the different tools are being used, and we can measure adoption rate. Like some teams will start with an experimental, and then they will move on to the kind of an implementer, and then kind of sometimes we'll go into hold. Probably we have to revisit those tools and then deprecate it. Right. So kind of a tech radar helps in this one. So these are different approaches, but this gives a kind of a flexibility for the product team or the teams to choose on their own, but give a consistency across the organization. Right. So that way, I feel that's kind of a key way to like scale things without a chaos.
Interesting. I like that platform concept, sir, IDP. Yeah, right. Vivek, you want to take a shot at it?
Yeah, thank you so much. So I think that was the right question. I think some of the part you already covered.
Maybe mic closer.
Is it fine now?
Yeah.
Okay, so so one thing that we need to understand why that happened, the tool sprawl. And you were right at that point where, different people coming from different experiences, from different companies, when they join their, your company, your team, they want to use their previous learning. And they do not want to adopt to a new tool. So that's where, different application teams working on different SDLC pipelines, they will say, okay, I want to use Jenkins because I have 6 years of experience working on Jenkins. And then somebody might say, okay, I have GitLab. So initially when, people started working in different clusters, so a lot of company ended up having multiple CI/CD tools, multiple security tools in their environment. But that was right, Parani was right on that point that we need to find a way to standardize. And to do that, we need to identify a team, maybe DevOps COE team, which can sit in an organization who is well aware about what is going on in the market, what are the new latest trends, what are the new tools, what are the benefits, and what they are right now using, compare them, and then recommend them. So as a governance layer, there should be a DevOps COE team. If you are not having enough budget or something to have that team in your organization, you can at least identify a few technical resources, senior resources, who can take that responsibility and accountability to find, standardize, and consider the recommendation which is coming from different team, and then decide what works best for your organization. So that's one thing which should be there.
Great. Narayanan.
Okay, it's a very interesting question to discuss about, because it connects to the first question as well, right? Because how you are going to standardize when there are multiple teams. It's not just about teams here, it's about the tools that are there. First thing about the tools is not just about there are lots of tools. It's also not just about the cost economics that could be involved with it. Imagine that some of them are paid, and then you have different contracts running around, there are multiple licenses, and then you are dealing with that. That's one layer. And then people can still justify it's all open source tool, and there are multiple versions running here and there. And then how you are going to control the security, patching, and everything, managing those things. So these are the multiple problems we can have, having multiple versions of tools running, and then people having their own thing. So I would like to have one question to the audience. Everyone enjoyed Diwali? How many of you are part of AWS outage calls during that time? Nice. I'm raising my hand as well. So imagine that day. Again, we don't have to, but if you can imagine for a moment, imagine that every team is running a different kind of a pipeline across their own versions of Jenkins running here and there. You want to move everything to different region. And people say, I need 10, 15 different teams coming in. They have to actually run because I don't even know where that Jenkins resides, right? I don't even know how they are running and deploying these services. Imagine this, actually. This is not going to happen. This is going to be a nightmare. So I think it all started with microservices as a thought process, right? When microservices came in, people started feeling one selling point of microservices is a freedom of technology, right? Everybody can have their own technology. You develop whatever you want. Everybody is happy, right? But when it comes to large organizations, the volume is really high. You're talking about, even if you talk about a company with 2,000, 3,000 people, imagine you have around 100 microservices, and then around 90 of them are using different programming languages. Each one of them are having a different programming language, right? How you are going to handle volume at that, handle any kind of problem at that level, actually. So it's a kind of a trade-off between what is the freedom and then what is the governance layer that we are going to put in place, right? It comes to the same point that I mentioned before. Understand why team is doing in a particular way. I think Vivek gave an example of why they are doing in a particular, because they are experienced in that. They were using it in the past organization. That is one way of seeing it from an employee point of view. Imagine your company acquiring multiple companies actually over the period of time, right? Each company will come with their own full stack, not just about pipelines. The full stack will be completely different, right? And then you will try to standardize that as well, right? So there should be a clear governance layer with justification, standardization, why we want to only select these technologies based on what is the maximum skill set that we have and which is the direction we want to go. So leadership being, I mean, most of us here in this room is one of the leaders, so it's up to you to decide in which direction we want to take the organization, what are the technology layers you want to have, what are the different kind of tools that you want to support, and based on the direction that you want to take, govern that. Have kind of a tech radar, inventorize. We have to be aware what is there actually. We have to at least know what is there, what different versions are there everywhere. If you look in the previous panel, they would have talked about SBOM and everything from a security point of view. Irrespective of security, we should be knowing what is there in the organization across all the teams and everything. With that in mind, then we should be able to standardize governance and then say, hey, only these 5 or 10 tools will be supporting, and this is how it should be implemented. These are different standards we'll be following. Like I mentioned, start small, stop the leak so that new things are following the standards, then slowly adopt to the existing ones, and then ensure that everybody is adopting by showing value in how you are providing this governance. That's how I say.
Thanks, Narayanan. Now, this is a very interesting question, right? Most of us will agree when we started our career, production build will be once in a year. Then it becomes twice in a year. Then it becomes maybe a very highly productive team maybe will make 4 builds in a year. That itself is a very big achievement. And who actually stands in between is the QA team, because they want to make sure that whatever production build goes on, it has to be stable and they won't allow this one. And thanks to the DevOps movement, now we are really increased. You know, there are now companies making multiple builds in a day, right? But unfortunately, QA has taken a step back now. And majority times QA is just more of just a simple gate that just approves through, and quality sometimes take a hit. 2008, I read, I gone through a presentation where Flickr said how they ship one production build a day. I said, it's unbelievable. How come they can make one production build a day when we are trying to struggle for 6 months? But now in a reverse situation now where QA take a step back, and the question is how we, the leaders, measure whether the DevOps adoption is truly improving and also making sure the release quality is also maintained. Maybe we'll start with Siva.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks. This is really good, actually. You're talking about the quality as well. So, just a question to all of us. So, how many of you guys think that DevOps, it's helps in only faster or shipping things, of releasing faster? Is this the only aspect of having a DevOps? How many of you guys think that way? So most people think that way, so it's not the case, right? So delivering fast, yes, it's speed drags attention. You can release as many deployments in a day, but what earns trust is quality, right? That's what he was talking about. So quality plays a major role here. So I look, as a leaders, right, we can think of, what does DevOps actually is going to help? Is that a faster delivery? It's not the only case, right? You need to make sure it's safer also. right? So from that context, right, so I see this in 3 lanes, right? So one is reliability. I think Narayan talked about the stability of it, right? So the major metrics, at least I will look into, is change failure rate. How many incidents across releases you have, right? So that is one major thing. And then the MTTR, right? So mean time to resolution. So when these 2 things are dropping, at the same time when your deployment is on the higher side, right? So that is the good state you should be in, right? So as a DevOps, that's the maturity level as a team you guys have attained. That is what all about reliability. Next one is prevention is always better than cure. That's what people say, right? So what prevention here is, you need to ensure quality not only at the end of your SDLC or whatnot, right? Many people already aware of shift lifting, all those things, and I'm not going to talk about that much. But yes, shift left is major important criteria how to prevent this, right? So as Narayan talked about a lot of guardrails, right? So at each DevOps cycle or SDLC life cycle, right? So what I'm talking about or I'm going to talk about is what is the accountability when we are saying that we are shift lifting, right? The quality especially. Who is going to account more, especially when we are shift lifting, right? So for me, developers have to take more accountability, especially when in this whole shift left approach actually. So how in Freshworks, right, at least in my team, what we tried out and which worked out for us is, we ensured, right, the whole of integration automation is taken, owned by developers themselves rather than relying on SDETs. SDETs plays a major role. I'm not neglecting that, but they are the gatekeepers at the end of the cycle before pushing anything to production. But shift lifting, we want to ensure developer owns majority of the quality. So they have to own this integration, because you might be talked about the pyramid of the whole quality cycle, right? So where base is all about your unit, and middle layer is your integration, and top layer is your end-to-end. So the middle layer is what going to impact you more, especially with all the ad hoc issues or a lot of like ad hoc production issues that is happening of late. So that's the study as well. So that is where we need to target. So and if a developer owns it and they ensure it, whatever the code change they are making, they run their write their whole automation for integration. They ensure they are testing the real environment rather than like mocking the data, staging data, I mean. So they can be able to ensure 90%, even beyond over 90% of the quality before pushing it to merging their PR or pushing it to the staging environment or merging in master branch, right? So then the SDET will take over. So that is prevention. So that kind of guardrails should be there. So how we measure its defect escape rate, right, from development to the staging to pre-staging and all the stuff. So as a leaders, we need to ensure that is happening. So third one is the customer trust, right? So how we measure customer trust, it's all about like how many production issues reported, how many L2 support tickets that's we are receiving, and also the NPS after each release is happening, right? So these are all the three things I feel the major measure. Finally, important one is the velocity or how the learning curve of your engineering team, right? Say for example, if any incident happening and all those stuff, how your engineering team putting all those learnings into your playbook or runbook based on the postmortem report, right? So that plays a major role, what kind of actions you are taking for those postmortem report, and how you are ensuring that it's not repetitive in nature, those kind of issues, right? This is the another metric also we need to just capture. So basically these are the things.
Thanks Shiva. Mohan?
Good evening, everyone. I think Shiva covered it all. It was an elaborate answer, Shiva. You covered it all. See, our journey is always, before 5-6 years, we started with legacy applications, .NET, R, Java. And then it was, now also we still have so much of legacy applications where we find very tough to containerize it, deploy it, Dockerize it and all. So as we have evolved building the cloud native applications, what I see as a metric, right, continuous deployment and continuous improvement, where what I see is that the KPIs, basically the 3 KPIs which I would say is that how frequent you are doing deployments, especially if it is an client-facing or a customer-facing application where you will have 10, 15 websites maintained at a time. Is it like daily? How much is the defect rate out of it is coming? And how much change failure rate? When I say the change failure rate, okay, I did 10 deployments. Now we are in Agile. At least we run a sprint once in 2 weeks. We deploy something or the other every day for that matter. So how that change failure rate is affecting, and what is my MTTR? When I say that MTTR should be less than 30 minutes, for 99.999 should be the benchmark as per the Deloitte or the KPMG, or for any one of the, especially the BFSI sector, right? So we should have constant metrics which is measured. There is a lot of great tools. We have Dora dashboards, we have Grafana, we have a lot of dashboards which can give you great insights about the KPIs. And we should be, and all should be needle movers. When I say needle movers, I measured, this is what my measure of success last year, how can I improve it better? How the change rate, the change failure rate, the defect rate, the customer feedback, everything should be measured on a constant base and refined in a constant manner, and making sure that we are at the end user, whomever can be the end user. It can be a frontline agent, it can be a back office agent, or it can be a customer. We are making sure that they are also not having any break in the customer satisfaction or the user journey what they are having.
Thanks. Thamarai.
So basically when you talk about the release quality, so what immediately comes to my mind is like, it is not about the number of releases we are doing frequently or other things. That is different story. So it is important that how this particular release is benefiting to the customer, or like whatever the customer or like stakeholder who are going to share this to, because this is the place where like you are going to bridge your entire development people. It includes your engineering team. Who are the people included as part of your engineering team, right? So this is going to be a face to the customer or stakeholder, right? So this predominantly when we are talking about how we can measure, it's basically like you have to show the metrics, right? So tomorrow I'm telling that like, oh, I have done like 20 releases per day, or like we are doing more than 100 releases per week or month, whatever the case. So leadership should believe that, okay, this is again giving add-on, like customer is happy about that, right? So when we are talking about all these things already, many like all are covered on those aspects, right? Giving a DORA metrics or other things, right? On top of it, like we have to measure what is the customer issues we are getting, right? So that is very key important thing. On top of DORA metrics, whatever the metrics we are creating as a KPI, right? So this is DORA is pretty much like what we are doing as in the DevOps practice or process, and top of it, like how many issues customer is giving. Like it is not only technical issues, right? It is again like whatever maybe the customer will be, we are not giving a proper support to the whatever the case is, right? So that is also one metrics we need to consider, because end of the day, release is not only the software which is going to get released, so it's all about the entire engineering team. We are going to deliver certain product, consider as a product to the customer, right? So that is how it has to get thing. So all the KPIs, whatever we are mentioning, right? So CFR, MTTR, deployment frequency, lead time to change, on top of it, like any production, post-production issues, customer issues, or any leakages, defect leakages, everything we are capturing metrics, right? You think in a way that how we are going to map it to the business, right? End of the day. So end of the day, it is not like a DevOps team or software team is going to give the business, right? So it's like we have to map the entire metrics, whatever we are bringing, it has to get mapped to the business, right? So end of the day, how business think, right? So customers should be happy, right? End of the day, whoever maybe, it may be a stakeholder or like customer, whatever trying to say, right? So we need to think in that perspective. So when we are doing a process, when you are creating a process in the DevOps setup, right? So we need to think in that perspective, ensure that release is on the utmost quality, whether we are doing a frequent releases, like ensure that will be a smaller release, so that like any issue comes, like it is easy for you to revoke back to the previous stage, right? So we have to ensure those aspects before thinking of standardizing a process as well. So these are all the few metrics which we need to think on release quality when we are mapping to the business also. So that is my view, Swami. Yeah.
Thanks. Now, this is a classic case, right? Every one of us, DevOps team, we face, like n number of production issues in a year. And most of them comes unannounced. And specifically, it will come in, late night hours or the weekends or in a festival. So it's not about how we deal with the incidents in a war room. It's more important is what we learn from them and making sure that it doesn't happen again. So over a period of time, the DevOps community, we built this playbooks, runbooks, and postmortems, RCAs, and all. But unfortunately, over a period of time, it has just been served for some compliance and documentation purpose, and nobody really look it back and see if it is anything can be learned from it. Because I tell my team at Kissflow that prevention, detection, and remediation, all three plays a very big part, right? But we can't prevent it straight away. First of all, we have to learn a lot from the production incident, then become how fast we detect, how fast we remediate, and then with this help of playbook, runbook, and postmortems, how we are going to make sure these issues are never happening again. So the question is, what role does playbook, runbook, and postmortem plays in building our team and organizational knowledge? This one I will start with Lenin first.
I'd love to. It's a very close to my heart topic. And I believe this is also something that's very close to our topic today of culture, skill, and operations. Because right now, when we look at several of the case studies, it's sad to also identify that this is probably the most undervalued area of the whole DevOps strategy. And its potential is not fully realized, right? The runbooks, playbooks, postmortem, these are like the muscle memory of an organization. And why the reason it's also important is this is beyond technology. This is about mindset. This is about how people own things, right? That's the definition of DevOps technically, right? Now, when we look at runbooks and playbooks, these are like how we act. When we have this as a strong mechanism in an organization, it kind of helps us codify best practices. It kind of helps us automate repeatable steps. And it also helps reduce the cognitive load when we are in high pressure situations during incidents. And then when we talk about postmortems, this is technically the why, like why were some things done in a certain way, and these are like the feedback loops for the organization. The more we miss that, I think we miss the learning process. And now when AI comes into the mix, we have several organizations who actually been very strong in terms of being able to identify insights from incidents, kind of change-related incidents or outages, and also about what are recurring patterns and so on. So there's so much knowledge that's coming out of the AI strategy that is probably not converted into a feedback loop.
Right.
Now that's where I think the strategy of DevOps, we've been talking about CI/CD all the time, but now we're shifting towards CI/CD/CT, which is the continuous training model, which is what is missing in several organizations today, right? That's what we're not capitalizing. And the organizations that capitalize that the most do not have to stop thinking at operational efficiency level, because the operational efficiency would be converted into organizational intelligence, and that would take the organization to a different level, right? So that's why I think this is a very, very important topic that all of us have to build as a culture. Without that, I think the scale of DevOps is going to be super challenging.
True, very true. Sure.
Yeah, as he rightly talked about, it's built the organization muscle memory actually. So I'll just give an example and then just explain it one by one. So in my experience, we run into one issue. Actually, we deployed one production things. It's a multi-tenant application, so we deployed one feature, and everything was good. So it was stable and all the stuff. So in the midnight, right? So our NOC get a lot of alerts for one particular customers. It's rate limiting and all the stuff, throwing 5x errors. And eventually it's started created a noisy neighbor issue, which is affecting other customers as well within that region. So he doesn't know, a particular customer is causing this issue with rate limiting and all the stuff, but he doesn't know what next steps needs to be done, which team needs to get involved, and what where to escalate and all the stuff. So he struggles. So what happens here is, he understands what is the problem, basically what actually caused the issue. So he knows about it, but the decision framework was not there, and then he couldn't be able to execute what needs to be done. So eventually that issue can be fixed within 5 minutes, but because of all those chaos, it took like more than 1 hour or so. So for me, postmortem is what actually has happened, how it happened. So this is what it's going to define, right? So Now, whatever we are learning from that postmortem is what going to get updated in your playbook. Playbook is nothing but mostly the decision making framework, right? So especially when you are this kind of panic situation, right? What the example I gave, what kind of decision needs to be taken is what it needs to be called out. And then a run book is based on whatever the playbook decision making. So what exactly needs to be done, right? So what execution we need to do, what are the steps to be followed? So that needs to be carried out. So actually for me, it's like a loop actually. So the postmortem just update the playbook will in turn update the run book. So it's like a circle for me, and eventually it is always keep on in the evaluation mode, right? So it needs to be up to date every time, right? So especially what the metrics we need to follow post that when we have the strengthen or the cycle loop of whether it's postmortem or playbook or run book is how, I mean, the repetitive issues shouldn't be occurring again and again, or even if it is occurring, it should not take more time to get it resolved, right? So that is the major metrics over here. So that is how, as an organization, you are building your this whole cycle, the postmortem or playbook or run book, and keeping it more efficient for your team to address those kind of issues on time and fixing it.
Right.
So
True. Vijayanand?
Yeah, as you said, so without a documentation, it becomes every run as a first run. So immaterial of how much times we do. But at the same time, the challenge is nobody is ready to read what is there in the run book or what is there in the playbook. For playbook, for run book, at least we have some automation that we can do. For playbook, we need at high level. So what is more important there is the postmortem. So when something goes wrong, an incident is happening, so that it is not like a finding fault or pinpointing any person. It should be collaboratively discussed what went actually wrong and making the seriousness. So if someone is not taking it serious or not attentive to it, it should be taken to a higher level so that it becomes, in Google if you see it is if someone misses it goes up to the VP level also. So how they give importance to this, that makes the playbook and run book which needs to be taken. So otherwise, they will never come. There is a document, it's given to me. Oh, okay, I've read, that's it, it will come. Only when incidents come, we try to see that this should not happen. Why did it happen? Why didn't you read this? Then the importance of the playbook or run book becomes more important. And without documentation, it's always a new run only.
Right.
It cannot be there.
Right.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you. Now, this is a classic DevOps team problem you will be facing from engineering team. Speed, right? They always want speed. They don't worry about whether we are available or not. If they want to do a production build now, it has to be done now. Forget about the schedules. They will say Monday morning 10 o'clock, but then suddenly Monday evening 5:30, they will say that now it has to go, right? They always excite speed. You know, like one of our engineering manager, Purushot, is there. Purushot, can you just raise your hand? When I joined Kissflow, you know, these guys were doing 35 to 50 builds a day. I was like, really? And these guys will be keep on pushing for more build and more build and more build. And suddenly I started feeling like these guys are F1 racers. They are not developers. They are F1 racers, but they don't race it on the racetrack. They race it on our normal city traffic. And they expect DevOps to be the pit stop crew and who also has to run along with their speed to make sure, because they don't stop for changing tires or refueling. We have to do everything on the fly. And I was worried, and that time there is only one DevOps member, Noordin, in my team. Noordin is there or is not there? Okay, anyway. So I am worried. I am asking, are we compromising on stability here? Because 35 to 50 production build a day, what happens to the stability in the infrastructure? What happens if something breaks? Because if we keep a backlog of not pushing this 35 or 50, next day another 50 build is going to wait for us. So the classic question of how to balance speed and reliability is a bigger challenge. So the question is how teams balance the need of rapid delivery with the need for operation stability. Maybe Mohan, we can start from you on that.
I always use this phrase for my DevOps team, Swami. I call them night watch. If you would have seen the Game of Thrones, right? They're critically the night watch, and the head of the DevOps would be the Jon Snow. So that much critical the DevOps is in a function, because
when we are not sure we are properly maintaining or running the business, which is the operational stability, we can never change the business. That is the innovation part of it, or where the company wants to go. The company strategy can be something they would define it, or goals and all. If you are not properly having that operational stability mindset, as what Jon Snow has in maintaining the night watch, it is going to be very difficult. So it has to go hand in hand. See, how many of us, after it can be a Google Kubernetes upgrade or an AKS, Azure Kubernetes upgrade, how many of us face issues, right? It is not a DevOps problem. It is the integration with the other teams where they are missing some of that. And the same way, any SSL certificate, for that matter, any certificate, right? It will not be our problem, it will be a vendor problem. But that comes on DevOps mindset, that we are responsible for it. If someone would have changed the certificate or it had been expired from the vendor side. So what I would say is that building a healthy CI/CD pipeline, the responsibility also come from all the application. It can be the application, the back and front end, and the data teams as well. So building the strong CI/CD pipeline would be the one thing to improve the operation stability plus DevOps. The second thing would be building in a lot of, getting in a lot of the inbuilt flavors. Say, for example, SonarQube, integrating that with our pipeline, which takes care of all of our security risk. Are you using any external libraries? Or if it is an AI-powered fueled machine, where there will be a lot of machine learning models, conservative LLMs, SLLMs running, I would accompany Fortify. We should start in getting that onboarded so that all of this risk and the automation are getting into place. And the third then will be, we should clearly define residual flags. We should so that we know that, okay, something has gone bad. We know these are all the residual factors or the flags where we have to, the DevOps should go and look at it. So considering all of these three, the automation and healthy CI/CD pipeline, where everyone are responsible for building that. And the third thing is that having the clear flag set. When there is a problem, we will exactly know where we will have to look at. But this is very critical for any business, any company. The operational mindset, the stability mindset, everyone should wear is what I always say. Everyone, it is not just DevOps responsibility of everyone.
Right. Thanks. Vivek.
Yeah, thank you. So one of the things I think, to bring operational stability, one of the things that should be there is automation. We should focus more and more on automation. So once we have defined certain number of tasks in a scripted way, in an automated way, you can run it 5 times or 10 times or 100 times. It will give you same consistency, same result. Unless there will be some variables which can change, but mostly it will remain the same. So we need to focus more that whatever process is there, whatever is manual process, it should be automated. Second, we should not just focus on the DevOps, pipelines and everything. We also need to focus what about the changes which is going into my infrastructure. Is it following the proper process? It is going in lower environment, and we have done thorough testing and not. Right. If that is also automated, then one challenge is also sorted. Then again on security, it should also be automated from lower and any change on security aspect, it should go from lower environment to upper environment. So that's on the automation side. Second, the environment that most of the DevOps teams use, production and -1 environment, it should be almost 99% of the replica. In terms of infrastructure, security, and application. So that whenever you roll out any new release, if it is going for non-prod environment, you will be able to know what is going wrong. Third point, so we were talking about, post-mortem reports. So most of the organization, we create post-mortem reports when any incident happens, or any P1 or P2 are there. What about the issues and errors that your development teams is facing when they are running your application in lower environment? Is your team creating knowledge-based articles on that? If your team is creating, knowledge-based KB articles on that and keeping a repository of that, your other team can learn from that, and in the long run, you will move towards operational stability slowly. So that once you identify those problems, you can start fixing through automation from lower environment itself. Right. So over a long period, you will reach the operational stability.
Right. Thanks.
Can I add to this question? I would like to give one example of how we are tackling this problem of operational stability and then quickly deploying something, right? I'm hearing for the first time 45, 50 deployments. I'll talk to you later. But thinking about multiple deployments happening in a day, right? First thing that we talk about is environment segregation, where we say deploy in lower environment, deploy in higher environment, production, non-production, or you have dev, staging, production, whatever it is, right? But how consistent these environments as a higher production is always a challenge actually. Because it's maybe at the infrastructure level you can keep it a little bit consistent, maybe it's comparably easier. But the scenarios that you actually hit in live, you will never hit in lower environments actually. Most of the time when you find an operational stability issue in your production or a bug or any issue that is happening in production, first question that comes in is why this is not tested, right? Why this was not covered in one of your test cases? Very easy to ask question, right? Most of the time the answer you will get is this is a corner scenario, right? This corner scenario, we don't have data in the lower environment, we don't have a way to automate it, we can't even think about it because it's a very corner scenario, right? This happens in production for a set of customers and there's an issue, right? So it's not just about isolating and deploying into different environments when you do a DevOps pipeline. You should also think about stage deployment within your production, right? There are lots of deployment strategies available, how you can tackle and deploy slowly within your live environment so that you understand what's happening with the quality of your release. You keep measuring it. Imagine you actually split it into, for your customers, you have a kind of a sandbox setup and the live setup. You split it into kind of slowly into stand-up setup, 10% of release, and then you see how the quality of it, and then tackle it slowly, so that at least you can control the blast radius. You also hear from live how your product is doing, how your release is doing. Developers are more interested in releasing fast. They can still release. They can release, it will be there in live, it will take maybe a day for it to stay in different stages within the live, and then you tackle it. The advantage is you hear from live, you understand what's happening with your customer with a very subset. You decide based on whatever it is. It could be revenue, it could be free customers first, or whatever makes sense for you. Friendly customers, because there'll be customers will be initially there, and then they are okay with some kind of a little bit of a downtime and things like that. You manage along with that, and then stage you deploy in production itself. That's the next level. First level is obviously environment isolation, and then you go slowly stage deploy in production. The added value is you learn from live, and then you can actually handle it very nicely, roll back much more faster, impact is very less.
Right, thanks for that add-on. Okay, the final one, right, culture, my favorite one, right? So over a period of time, the tools and pipelines might evolve, right? But the culture is what keep things alive and intact. And as a manager, we have to make sure the team just don't work together alone, they have to learn, share, and grow together. And in order to make it happen, we have to run a lot of, internal communities to keep things going, maybe a kind of a Friday talk or some cross presentations or, workshops or something like that. So I'm very interested to know how you guys are, what practices you are encouraging to keep the internal communities, thrive and grow together. Maybe Parani Raja, maybe you can start with that.
Okay, so in the case of DevOps, culture is the heart, right? Yeah. So, we have to kind of ritualize the knowledge, learning process, because these DevOps tools are evolving too fast, and creating kind of a connect session, because we have a dev on one side, ops on the other side, there is a platform, and automation, multiple teams are there. So having a connect session, make them kind of learning. And then you rightly said, kind of having a brown bag sessions, that will definitely improve the learning process. And then doing a cross-functional one, like inclusion. When we do this inclusion between the developer, security, and then the ops team, we'll be able to create a kind of a platform that will come up with a blueprint. Let's say it will have all the best practices of security by design, and then whatever you want to have an observability, everything will be in place by default. So we don't need to rush things to the very last moment. So when we do the cross-functional, we'll be able to get a better design and then include all the communities across the board. Okay, that's one. And third one is celebrating success. For example, kind of creating champions. And then celebrating, sharing the success stories. Because definitely there will be a rift between the teams. I'll say it is working fine for me, why I have to change. So kind of asking people to share about the success and then make them adoption. So that's where we can grow, okay? And as you rightly said, it's not about sharing tools. It's like sharing stories, struggles, and successes. That's what I feel.
Thanks for it. Mohan?
For me, personally, it would be aligning them with their career progression. Say, for example, an OPC, a server engineer, he can be easily adopted to DevOps, and in the same way who is working in a QA environment. So that career progression, setting their alignment with the career progression of what they have, and say them that this is a fruitful journey and this is an evolving journey has always yielded success. And having communities, DevOps communities also helps. One major thing where I see a lot of, still we need a lot of improvement is that, Swami, when we go for any college hires, because some of the major product companies, we hire a lot from the colleges. They either want to become a full stack engineer or they either want to become an AI engineer. No one says me that I want to become a DevOps engineer or a network engineer. But giving them the scope of work, how much it is scaling, how much it is in the future of the industry 5.0, this is going to be an important piece. Educating them, training them is also big. And I have started doing it. I have asked my campus panels, I have asked my SMEs to go and talk about DevOps in the colleges, saying that this is a great career choice and you have to get adopted instead of just going for a full stack in AML. So these things I think we have to correct it from the starting itself so that there is a lot of exposure and then people get adopted from, as they are building the mobile apps or they are doing in web development, they also get into the world of DevOps. From the third years or fourth years itself, I think we should start doing it. And this is the right time because the demand of DevOps will be more and more in the next decade. Thank you, Swami.
Thanks. Vijay, maybe you want to conclude with this?
Yeah. So actually, as he said, in colleges, when we go, they are always saying full stack, but they never speak about this DevOps. So the main thing is they don't realize the way it can help them, how fast it can be deployed, and at the same time, of course, there is a safety rule that needs to be taken care, but how fast it can do in their day-to-day activity, how fast it can give results. So that is totally missing. And at the same time, it should not be with one person. It should be a changeable mode. So it should be frequently changed among the teams so that everybody has an opportunity to learn what is happening in each point of it. And at the same time, a new innovation could come. So maybe I'm not at all involved. Why should I care? So when I get involved in that particular sector, I give my thoughts. It becomes added value for it and new innovation comes into it. So like this, continuous learning and growth comes from it.
Thanks. Okay, thanks guys.
The summary is actually, DevOps department is considered like a mechanical department in college. Even though it's a very equally good, career to take, but people always think mechanical as the last department, I will think. Similarly, people think DevOps as the last department to be taught, but actually it's a equally important career opportunity, equally importance is there because we talk about culture, scale, and operations. Everything is coming through the DevOps pipeline and everything related to DevOps. So I think it's a kind of we have to start thinking about what's the value add and start propagating what's important and what's the value add the team is doing actually.
Right, I certainly agree. I started my career way back in '97 and 2012 I took a call. I felt like I'm done enough software development, handled many projects. Then distribution was very fascinating. At that time, I've seen DevOps as a digital supply chain and logistics. Till now, I have a debate with my friend who don't agree. This is not supply chain and logistics. But I tell them DevOps is exactly the supply chain logistics and more complex than engineering. Anyone can develop, but distribution is a bigger thing. Now, even with AI and Gen AI, right, anybody can develop, but the real challenge is distributing it at scale and at this thing, so, right? So really, guys, I really enjoyed this panel discussion, and I hope you guys also, had a fruitful time, but I guess we are running short of time, we might not
to add, Swami, I just want to say one thing. So when we started an early way of DevOps, early period, right? So as Swami was mentioning, people used to call me, hey, what you are doing? We used to call it as SCM, right? Software Configuration Management, okay. So, hey, SCM is supply chain management. It's not like, we have to mention that, no, it is not supply chain management, it is software configuration management. You used to do a release, why it should be released, all those things it comes. I want to quote one more thing, sorry if I'm taking time. So I used to, recently when he was mentioning, right, so I had an intern from a college recently passed out, when we are doing an interview, he's all fascinating things was talking about DevOps, infrastructure, cloud, etc. Okay. So we hired and he is in the team, and after 6 months he is coming and complaining me, hey Kannan, can we move to full stack development rather than going for DevOps? All the 6, so these, there are why I'm saying these things, right? So we have ample opportunity in DevOps, so which people outside of world doesn't have known that. So we should be in a place where we should take to the next level.
Thank you.
Yeah, I personally want to thank you, Swami, because being a DevOps practitioner, I think the engagement was also very, very, very encouraging. So thank you for doing this.
Thanks.
And I also want to thank Quantic because we were also talking about this. We don't see a lot of DevOps meetups a lot these days. Not sure if it's because of fading out, but I think as practitioners, we also talked about the impression of DevOps in the institutions and also in the industry. I think at least now this should just become a much more stronger community to kind of redefine what this means and kind of not have people think more about the ops letters in that DevOps word, but rather think about this as a culture and why is it important for all. So I think looking forward to more.
Yeah. Thank you all. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.